Hey, everybody. We're back for another edition of the Fantasy Football Expo podcast series. Once again, we focus on the exhibitors. That is Nate Cheatham from IDP Plus. That is Ricky Rodriguez from IDP Plus. We got a duo tonight. It's going to be a good one. Check it out next. Woo. Defensive player people of America, welcome to the Focused on You, the IDPs, the individual defensive players. We've got Nate, Ricky from IDP Plus. We're going to talk to them tonight about their company, what they do. What does the plus stand for now? Used to be IDP Guys, so we're going to ask them about that too. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself. Just tell everybody out there where you're, recording from.
Yeah, absolutely. Ricky, I'll step in front of you if you don't mind here. And just to say, I'm taking off my Expo hat to put on my IDP Plus hat. I've been with this company. I founded it in like 2017, 2018. My story's out there. Go check out last year's episode if you're curious about, me personally. IDP Plus, the brand, we can get into a little bit more of that, but I want to kind of show off or send it over to Ricky Rodriguez, who, this is his first time on one of these shows, and, I've been more of a common face, so go for it, Ricky.
Thank you, Nathan, and thank you, Bob. So I started playing IDP back in 2020 for the first time and absolutely love it. And if you've never played it before, come to IDP Plus and check it out. And we got a lot of people that'll help you with that. But that aside, so when I started playing, I started doing research to learn more about IDP. Stumbled across Nathan's website, and he was looking for a partner in crime. And so we became partners, and we've been moving forward. And as Bob alluded to in the opening, we've gone from IDP Guys to IDP Plus, and they're doing really well and providing great information for our customers out there.
Good stuff. Yeah, no, definitely one of the premier IDP sites out there. We all know the godfather of IDP is Gary Davenport. We leave that as it is. Nobody wants to take that title. He's super old anyway, so we'll just leave it there.
I can't fit into those suits.
No, and he's way too tall. Yeah. But we love Gary.
It is worth coming to the Fantasy Football Expo just to see what suits Gary is going to have on every year.
If you come for nothing else, just come and see what Gary wears on Expo Sunday to the event. It's always something special for sure. Ricky, like Nate said, we're going to bypass him. We all know him. We all love him. But we're going to focus more on you not because you're the new guy. You've been around for a long time, but take us back to the beginning for you, Ricky. When did you start playing fantasy football? Not just IDP, fantasy football, the game, or did you start with IDP? I guess that might be the question too. Talk about what year that was, who got you into it, what intrigued you to be a part of this wonderful, wonderful thing that we call fantasy football.
I started fantasy football back in 2003 when a coworker came up to me. Yes, Nathan, how old were you in 2003? I get it. Like you were still in high school or something?
You graduated from 6th grade. No, I'm just kidding.
I graduated in 2006, so yes.
Oh, gosh, holy cow. Okay, so I've been playing a long time. But actually, my fantasy sports background, I actually started playing fantasy baseball in 1987.
Oh, there you go. Now we're back in my era. Here we go.
So, there was a company called Score Sheet Sports out of California run by Jeff Barton. I can't believe I remember that name.
Oh, wow.
And basically, everything was done via paper, and you mail it in. And at the end of each week, they would mail you actually box scores, a week's worth of box scores based on how the players did in real life. So I did that for numerous years until my first son was born in 92, and then that's when things kind of slowed down for a while. And then, but at work they said, "Hey, let's try this fantasy football thing," and I got addicted to them. I'm a CPA and a CIA certified internal auditor, not the other CIA.
Yeah.
So Bob, I think you're a CPA as well, right?
Yes, I am.
And so, great minds think alike. But so. Fantasy football was like football that I loved and numbers that I loved because of the accounting in me. And so it was just a match made in heaven. And I've been once I got the hang of it and figured it out, I've been dominating ever since for the most part.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of that insanity of spreadsheets and numbers and multi-cell lookups and formulas. It's I've told Ricky, I was like, we need to somehow bottle this up because we could sell it and make a fortune.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, Nate. So a few shows ago, you were between two Bobs, and now you're between two CPAs. So
there it is. There it is.
There it is. No, that's good stuff, Ricky. It's funny. I played fantasy baseball too. In about the same time frame I started football, which is '85. So, but at around '87, '88, I think I got into rotisserie baseball as well with my cousins. Fun league, but yeah, it was a good time. And a lot of it was by paper, as you mentioned.
So we're packing the mood, Bob. So a quick story on that.
Yeah, sure.
So you mentioned rotisserie baseball. I found some rotisserie baseball books that I'd bought at an old Barnes and Noble type bookstore. I don't think it was Barnes and Noble exactly, from way back that I have. That I like. Okay, I can't give these to Goodwill. I got to keep these for some reason.
Yeah. Do you remember who wrote them? Were they like Bill James or something like that?
It wasn't James. If the name comes to me, I'll let you know. But it was
Bill
one of the
James was one I remember from way back. I know there was another one, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. But anyway, yeah, good stuff. Ricky, talk about then that transition to the IDP side. When did you start getting in? Again, same kind of question. Who got you into it? How did you find out about it? Why did that intrigue you to transition to add that IDP either to your leagues or 100% IDP leagues?
Well, so during the summer months of, I guess that would have been 2020, I'm a big fan of a lot of the hosts on the Sirius XM radio, many of which will be at the Football Expo and have a chance to for people to meet. And one of those shows was Bob Harris, who I know y'all had on a show a few weeks ago, along with Mike Dempsey, also known as the Football Diehards.
Yeah.
And Mike mentioned that they decided that they were going to do a new dynasty league with 16 people that were in the profession and 16 listeners. And I was one of the listeners. And so what you had to do is you had to submit a 50-word
essay
article, essay sort of about why you should be picked to join the league.
I like it.
And so Mike said, if it's 51 words, you're going to be kicked out. You better make sure it's 50 or less. And if you've ever heard Mike on the radio, you know when he means 50, he means 50.
Oh, yeah. I've been Mike. Yeah. You don't mess with Mike.
Yeah. So part of what I put in my 50 words was I actually thought about trying to join the industry in 2010, but I decided to stay married because my wife didn't like that idea of me quitting Dell at the time.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
And so they thought that was funny, I guess, and I got selected for it. And I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a offense and IDP league. With at the time, the rosters were 50 plus 5 for taxi squad plus injured reserve slots. So very deep offense and IDP league with 15 people in the industry and 16 other listeners, or 15 others like myself. So that's how I got into IDP. And that's what eventually led me to start searching. Okay, we got a draft coming up in about a month. I better figure out this IDP thing pretty quick. So that's when I started searching sites like, which was IDP Guys at the time, now IDP Plus, and reading some of the great articles about how to an IDP, all the way through, rankings and so forth. And that's where I got started with IDP and got heavily involved. And once you get involved in having both sides of the line of scrimmage to worry about, and if you're a red zone fan, like probably many of the listeners are out there right now, you're watching offense, you're watching defense, you're hoping that, your running back gets tackled by one of your linebackers all in one play. I mean, it just brings a whole nother level to the game. And just like a touchdown is big scoring, you can have sack big scoring or interceptions, just like big plays. So it's a lot of similarities and parallels. And there's not a whole lot of people that teach and educate how to pick the right linebackers, how to pick the right safeties, or so forth. So, and that's what we do at IDP Plus. So that's kind of was where my journey started, and I got addicted really, really fast.
I can imagine. I've dabbled in it. I'm not going to say I try to stay away. I just usually don't get asked to be in them. But I've been in a couple where that's like 3 or 4, and I'm just kind of like playing it by ear. And I'm sure it's not the right way, but yeah. But no, good stuff indeed. So IDP Plus has been at the expo since 2021, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken. Wasn't there for the first one, which there wasn't a lot of people there for the first one, so it's okay. We only had 75 people. So yeah, if you were at the first one, you're a rare breed at this point. But anyway, either one of you, and Nate, I know you could talk about this too because you made an impact, my friend. You had like the best booth.
Oh yeah.
Everybody wanted your like, whoa. I remember walking up to you and going, looking at the booth like, holy cow, this is
Yeah.
amazing. Most people didn't even have a banner, let alone a
Sure.
cloth, and you had stand-up banners. And yeah, I think
Mhm.
everybody was in awe of the IDP plus or IDP guys at that point, but still, we'll just keep calling IDP plus. But and so talk about that beginning. I
Sure.
think Ricky wasn't involved yet, right?
Not yet at that
that was
Not
point.
yet,
before me.
right? But
That's
talk
correct.
about
Yeah.
that first year, Nate, because you, like I said, you kind of came in and set the bar at a much high level, or a higher level than anybody else by far. But you knew what you're doing because you do this for your real job. So talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, I learned about the expo when it was the Midwest Fantasy Football Expo for in 2019. And I remember seeing that come across going like, man, that'd be really cool to go to. I hadn't really met anyone in the industry like face to face. It was always virtually. So it was always of interest to try and like get involved in that way in the community and in the industry. So when obviously 2020 happened, that all sucked. Everyone,
Mm-hmm.
no one liked that being stuck inside and everything going on. So when 2021 things like started opening up, I was like, I need to go to this event. I need to get one out of the house, but also into the community and get to, meet some people. And so I was thinking about, okay, my brand at the time, what being IDP guys, being about IDP. I was like, we're such a small community. I bet there's not going to be even a single other booth or exhibitor for IDP. I was mistaken because the Fantasy and Frames guys were there.
Right.
I'm big friends with them, big fans. Um, but I decided I'm going to get a VIP booth. I'm going to pull out all the stops and kind of show up as flashy as possible to kind of represent IDP and attract people into this part of the industry. And I just happen to have a graphic design degree. I happen to be a web developer. A lot of this stuff kind of comes together. And what's interesting is that experience of building that booth actually relays the other way to my day job. Now I go to trade shows and
Right.
I built a booth that attracts, lawyers and other business services people at these events, and all of the vendors around me look at our booth going, man, I was just in Texas and I had a woman come up who was a vendor next to us taking photos and saying, I got to send this to our marketing people because, this is such good ideas. Um, and yeah, it's just about creating an experience for people to come in and remember you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, for anyone that's thinking about coming to the expo as an exhibitor for the first time, that's the best way to make an impact is try and be different, try and come out with like as much as you can, do as much as you can to kind of set yourself apart and you'll be rewarded for it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Before we kind of go into when Ricky came on board and then how the expos has been for him, let's talk a little bit more about IDP Plus. Talk about what the plus now means and how much more you have and all the different tools and genres and things that you guys have as a part now of this big conglomerate scenario called IDP Plus.
Yeah, Ricky, I'll give this to you because you were involved in the transition pretty heavily.
Well, I thought you were going to do that one. You were the brains behind it, to tell you the truth. So I'm going to let you do it, buddy, and then
Okay.
I'll chime in on the end.
All right, we're playing hot potato with this. So basically, when Ricky came on board, we had also another person involved at that time. They departed from the ownership group, but the consensus was that we had outgrown the name IDP Guys. One, it was very restrictive as far as content. People would land on the site, or we would talk about something, and people would be like, I didn't know you did offense. I didn't know you did these other things. So we wanted to extend our brand so that it kind of could encompass other subjects other than just IDP. And also, we were beyond just being guys. Like IDP Guys was myself and my old roommate, two dudes that had a microphone talking about IDP. We have a whole team. There were women on the team. We wanted to kind of extend our brand so that it wasn't, I guess, gendered, you know. And so we kind of took at least a year and a half to think through, um, where do we go? We could have gone into, um, removing IDP altogether, but eventually we kind of circled back into our identity. Where we got to this level of success that we're at is because of IDP. So we didn't want to, kind of move away from that. And then, I mean, how many whatever plus accounts are there now between ESPN plus, NFL
Right.
plus? It was just like we kind of landed on that of like, okay, IDP plus, it's kind of where we were and where we're going. And then we were able to create a brand around that in a brand language where we can say, IDP plus sports betting, IDP plus offense, and so we got into,
Right.
sports betting content, content for offense. I mean, we were already doing offense, but we could better define it and use it in our brand language. Ricky, fill in the gaps. What am I missing here?
You did really well, much better than I would have done. So I'm glad I passed the potato to you. The only other thing I'd add is we were idpguys.org, and
Mhm.
someone else had idpguys.com, and they
Uh,
weren't willing to sell it. So that was another reason. But we did want to get all the things that Nathan said were absolutely correct in terms of guys felt limited. IDP just by itself felt limited. And Nathan's right. This was something we didn't. It wasn't like we spent. He and I were on a Zoom call for 2 hours drinking beer, and decided on IDP Plus. We spent a lot of time doing research, talking to people,
Mhm.
and bouncing things around and different ideas until we landed on IDP Plus. And I think it really tells a story. Where IDP Plus, whatever so much more. We did start doing a lot of sports betting. Particularly videos last year, some articles as well, and it creates an opportunity for the future with IDP.
Cool. No, that's awesome. And folks, if you haven't been to the site, please check it out because it has got such great stuff. And they're right. It's more than just IDP, So great people, great knowledge, great nuggets there of information. So check it all out at idpplus.com.
.com. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, so let's switch back to the expo. All right, Ricky. So now you've joined the team a few years back. You came to your first expo. Talk about your first time experience, your thoughts, your expectations. What people can get from it, both as an exhibitor and as a fan.
Well, let's start on the exhibitor side first, and then I'll go to the fan side. Hopefully, I don't put people to sleep. But on the exhibitor side, Nathan just continued to build off of what you all described in
Mm-hmm.
terms of trying to bring things to our booth. And if I remember correctly, that first year we actually rallied off, my first year, I should say, we raffled off a TJ Watt jersey. And when I say raffled off, we didn't actually charge. If people signed up and all to join like our email, if I remember correctly, Nathan, you'll correct me if I'm
Mhm.
wrong, then they got a ticket to enter to potentially win a TJ Watt jersey.
Nice.
So we were trying to emphasize the defensive side of things. So just another step that we took. But it was what was great about being an exhibitor is all the different people we met. So there's whether it be fans who were just there visiting and wanting to learn more about all the different aspects. Like a lot of people that we talked to didn't even know about IDP, and we
Right.
introduced it to them. All the way through people from other businesses that were coming to our booth to learn more. And we had a lot of great discussions about potential partnerships and all, many of which we followed up on after the fact. Some of
Mm-hmm.
which didn't pan out, which was fine, but some of which we did have some follow-ups, and we'd done more with them, and even built some additional relationships, which have helped us down the road, which I won't get to those specifics because that's specific to the business. But it was great. And my one regret from that first year as an exhibitor was the fact that I was in the booth the whole time.
Mhm.
And I wanted to be in the booth the whole time, to be there to represent the business and so forth. And I did meet the people that came through, but I wish, from a lesson learned perspective, I had other people there who could take a shift, for lack of a better term, so that I could make sure that I hit every single booth, introduce myself to all the business owners, understand what they do, and look for those business partnerships and opportunities, which
Mhm.
I did more of in year 2 and year 3, but I didn't get to do in year 1. So that would be for people that are considering exhibitors. If you can have more than one person to have that flexibility to do that.
Right,
Um,
right.
and y'all could probably elaborate on that some more based on some other stories y'all probably heard.
Well,
So
and I think it's important for people to remember that when you get a booth, you get 2 VIP passes for the weekend for 2 attendees. Take advantage of that.
Mhm.
As Ricky said, I've had people go, "Well, I'm the only one that can make it," and I'm like, "Well, that's cool, but as Ricky just said, couldn't have said it better myself. You can't leave that booth,
Mhm.
and therefore you can't get out and mingle with everybody. Now, granted, Friday night, Saturday night parties, you've got plenty of time to mingle, but you may not know everybody and get to meet everybody because you see the name tags, but you're not 100% sure what's Big Guy Fantasy Sports. I don't know, So it is important. Make sure you can get 2 people. Honestly, if you can get a third, bring a third,
Yeah.
because that just makes it that much easier to rotate, every hour or 2 or whatever, to get around and meet the people and that. But as Ricky said, it is a lot about not only selling to the fans and getting users and subscribers and readers, but it's also a good way to make new connections. Whether it's other sites that are similar to you or different from you or complement you. I always say, if you've got a specific niche, like mine's consistency, your guys' is IDP. Well, you've got everything now, but finding sites that could, promote my book, and I could promote, their stuff. So that's what it's all about too, is really getting everybody together and sharing the knowledge, not only of the fantasy football knowledge, but the business knowledge, and those who have those years of service underneath their belt, that you can ask them, hey,
Right.
how did you get started? What did you do? What's different? I mean, and the great thing is this industry shares like there's no other. I think somebody called it, and I'll see if I can remember the word. It wasn't competition.
Cooperation.
Cooperation. That's it. That's the word. Thank you. It's perfect because it is. It's cooperating. It's coordinating. But it's also competition at the same time. But you're also helping each other. That's the perfect way for this industry to continue to be successful at all levels. So, Ricky, great stuff for you and Nate.
yeah.
Love that.
and,
Talk a
and
little
just
bit about it as a fan, though.
yeah. So I was just going to add too, building on your point. There's a lot of times to connect on the Friday night and the Saturday and so forth
Mm,
as well. But when you're having that dialogue outside, you do learn a little bit about them and what they're doing and so forth. But then when you're talking to them at their booth with their product, and if they're demonstrating something on the computer or whatever it might be, it really hones in to help truly understand what their business is about and where there's some potential opportunities and stuff. So once again, another reason to have multiple people so you can get around and so
right.
forth like that.
Right. Definitely.
On the fan side of things, you 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 I'm gonna hit it, fan as a general fan and fan as a kind of a kind of business owner with IDP Plus. This industry, and so I knew Nathan going in my first year, and I knew some of our team members through Zoom calls and all, but I really didn't know anybody else, and I never met anybody, including Nathan, face to face. And so I was excited to meet Nathan. I was a little bit nervous, even though I'm this old guy who's been in corporate America for 38 years or whatever it was.
Nate's very intimidating.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fair.
yeah. Uh, but I was like a little bit nervous, like who am I going to hang out with? Who am I going to talk to and so forth? And the community, not only this cooperation competition thing that you talked about into one word, which I can't pronounce, But the friendliness overall, 99% of the people, there's always that 1%, okay? But the 99% of the people are so freaking friendly and open, including folks that you hear on Sirius XM. It's like,
Mhm.
they put on their pants the same way that we put on our pants, for lack of a better term. And I mean, I remember last year, I hadn't really had a chance to talk with Jim Coventry. And at the Saturday night event at the stadium, I saw him and said, "Hey, Jim," and he said, "Didn't we meet last year?" Last year, I said, "Oh, yeah, it was a quick hello, whatever." And then we ended up having a great conversation about his total career and what he was doing from an education perspective, and then moving finally full time in the industry and all. What he does with RotoWire and family stuff. It was an amazing conversation. And
Mhm.
here's someone I hear on the radio all the time. Is like, "Oh my God, he's famous, whatever." Just a down earth, nicest guy. As are the Bob Harrises of the. I mean, I could go on and on
Yeah, right.
from the famous people side are really more famous, but there's a lot of other people in the industry maybe not quite as famous, but just all are super nice. So if you're worried about talking to people, meeting people, whatever, if you walk over to them and say hello, you're going to
Yeah.
have a conversation. And then
Yeah.
if you get involved in the activities from a fan perspective, that makes it even better. So, for example, the cornhole tournament on Friday nights, that I made it to the quarterfinals one year and final 16 and quarterfinals. I never won it, as some people may have on this broadcast, no names mentioned.
It wouldn't be me.
He may have raised his hand, and it wasn't rigged. But anyway, so you get paired with somebody you don't know. So right off the bat, you're paired with someone you get a chance to meet. And on top of that, you're competing against two other folks in multiple rounds, assuming you move forward, that you get to meet. And then that's on the Friday night, the first night. And then you continue to meet with them as you move forward. You see them at all, you keep on running to them and so forth. And said, yeah, you make fun of the game or you kick my butt in cornhole or whatever. But then there's the poker tournaments where you get to meet people. And then there's the draft night out drafts where you can participate with drafts and meet a bunch of new people. It goes on and on, not to mention the exhibits and all. So there's just a ton of ways that, from a fan perspective, you can have a ton of fun, but then meet a lot of people. And so it's just fantastic. And after year one, I couldn't wait to go back for year two and year three and now year four kind of thing. And yes, part of it was the business, but more of it is I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of these people face to face again and interact with them and have some great dialogue and catch up with them and how their families are doing and how their fantasy football business is doing or
Mhm.
whatever the case may be.
Yeah, no question about it. And then on top, I mean, from my perspective, I'm always excited to bring in the new folks. Nate and I go to the FSGA, both conferences, winter and summer, and we get to see all these new products as they do an elevator pitch on stage. And I'm always like, oh, I like that. Like, oh, we got to get them to come because it's that product. One of them this year is Golden Camel. They've got this great app, which I can't wait for them to show off for sports betting. And you think, oh, well, everything. There's so many apps for sports betting. This is completely different. It's super cool. So that it's that kind of stuff that excites me as much as it is meeting all the people that I've seen every year. That's great as well. And I love hanging out. I wish I could sit there till god awful hours of the night drinking
Yeah,
and hanging out with people. But
yeah.
dang it, I got to
I
run
didn't
now.
mention a lot of the after-hour socials that
Oh
that
yeah, I
happen.
say
I'll just
the
keep that.
non certified expo events.
Yeah.
Wiffle ball tournaments in the streets and George's bar and lounge.
Yeah.
Those aren't even talked about. Well, they're not documented. Let's just put that. They're talked about, and there's lots of talking about it. But no, thank you, Ricky, for those kind words. Yeah, it's just been a great experience bringing everybody together. And once again, we look forward to IDP Plus, you guys being a big part of it as always. Before we
Can I
go,
can I
any
mention the
last? Yeah,
Can I mention the exhibits too, Bob?
sure.
I, well, not the exhibits, the panels. I'm sorry, I meant the
Oh, the
panels.
panels. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Please.
The panels are whether you be a fan or you are a part of the fantasy football community and have a business or whatever. I mean, there's all kind of different panels. There's panels on gambling. There's panels on IDP. There's panels on on the offensive side of things, there's panels where you get to ask a lot of questions of the audience. I remember one year Nathan did one on if you're thinking about starting a website, how to get started, and pluses and minuses of building something yourself and all. So there's all kind of panels also to educate, whether it be for the business or for the fan, in terms of, okay, who do the Bob Harrises and
Jeff
Marcus
Radcliffe, Howard
Grant and
Benders,
Jeff Radcliffe, yeah, all those guys, who their top sleeper picks are, or who they're steering away from and why. You get to ask them and interact with them. So the panels are also awesome as well, and I wanted to give a shout out for those as well.
No, thank you. And we really don't talk about them as much as we should. But you're right. And I love. I usually MC a few of them. The first one, which is the one with in the morning, always the pregame one. That's the big. I call it the Mount Rushmore. With Marcus Grant and Howard and Bob Harris, etc. And you're right. I'm sitting there literally taking notes, like, oh, Bob Harris. Oh, Bob Harris likes that guy. Okay, that's important because. They bring up nuggets of information that while I focus on consistency and this, that, and the other, but if I learn something about how the offensive line is restructured, how the new OC is running a different zone, or, whatever the case may be, those guys are much smarter at that than I am. But I use that stuff and go, oh, well, then based on that, I can move this running back up or this receiver up or down or what, so you're right. And I always say, everybody's a fan of everybody. Everybody's like, oh, there's no, we don't have that many fans. No, I'm a fan of a lot of people in this industry. And I, take very, very, pay very close attention to what they say because of that. And I hope people take close consideration to what I say about consistency information and what you guys say about IDP, information. That's what we're here for, is to learn. And we all have our thoughts and our ideas and our nuggets of information. And that's what's great about it, is we can all sit there and learn from each other and we all become better fantasy players, better people, better business people in a fantasy world. And also, like you said, the co-opetition. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
Good job.
I'll be here all week. So thank you for all that. And the panels are a big deal. So, Sunday
I got another one.
That's why we record every panel too. And people keep forgetting about that. We record every panel, and put them out on YouTube. So if you miss one because, oh man, I can't go to Joe Bryant's Getting Started in Fantasy Football because JJ Zachariason is going to be talking here or whatever. Don't worry about it. We're recording them all, and they'll all be on the YouTube Expo channel when we're done. So even if you can't make it to the Expo, which we want you to do, don't forget that information will be out there, and we don't charge for it. Completely free. You're missing out on the weekend, but at least we'll give you the information. You don't want to miss out on the weekend. That's a good time. So any last things, guys, before we go?
I got to talk about the King's Classic. So
yes.
the way you all have grown it from how it started, you can give the history on that, Bob, to where now there's the women's version and there's the IDP version, and then y'all are doing something special for fans this year. So I'll just tee it up and I'll let y'all take it from there, kind of thing. But I've been honored to be able to be in the IDP King's Classic for the first couple of years and made the playoffs, and hopefully we'll win it this year. But I'll let y'all take it from there on that.
Yeah. Well, so the whole weekend started in 2018. That was the first year of the King's Classic. And the reason I did that, it wasn't to create Expo Weekend. Why I did it is that fantasy baseball, had been holding expert drafts live in person in New York City for years. And one's called Tout Wars, one's called Labor. And I would listen to it when I was doing fantasy baseball, and I would listen to all the greats, Todd Zola and Jason Collette and Paul Sport and all these great, Jeff Erickson. And it was always so cool to listen to. And they were usually doing it someplace cool, like XM Studios. But 2018, and then February or March of that year, They were doing it in the AAA locker room of the, I think it's the Staten Island Yankees is their AAA team. And it was in the locker room. And they had the team not only gave them the locker room to use so that XM could do a live broadcast, but they put nameplates on all of the lockers for the guys drafting.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, that's so freaking cool. And that's when I'm like, okay, this is good. This has got to happen now. And so I sent this email to Mike Clay, who I'd gotten to know. And I sent it to him, Brad Evans. I sent it to him first because I figured he's ESPN. He's got the biggest pull, right? I think I might have put Bob Harrison Howard. But anyway, let's just go with that. And within 5 minutes, an email came back to me that wasn't from Mike directly. It was forwarded by Mike, but it was Brad Evans's email from a week before that said, Mike, we should really do a live national draft, expert draft, but we just need a cool place to hold it. Oh, I know one. And so Mike says, I think we have something. And so then me, him, and then we got Andy Behrens, Bob Harris, Dave Richards, all these guys involved. And I said, look, if you guys will come to Canton, I will get the Pro Football Hall of Fame and we'll do it in their Gold Jacket Lounge. It's a private room upstairs that they use for meetings and stuff. And they all just geeked out. And I go, and one of you guys has to get SiriusXM to come to it. And I didn't know how quickly it would come together. And within 3 weeks, it was done. We were set. SiriusXM loved the idea. All the big guys loved the idea. They couldn't wait. Marcus Grant was just on our show, a week or so ago. And he, when Brad Evans contacted him about coming, he goes, hey, I want you to be in this another one of these expert drafts. He's like, oh, God, not another expert draft. I'm so many. I don't know, Brad. He goes, it's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. When do I sign up? He goes, he didn't even think twice. He goes, Pro Football Hall of Fame? Oh, yeah. So that's what it started. And so we just had 2 leagues, 2 12-team leagues. We moved it the next year to 2 14-team leagues. And again, doing the live drafts in the hall. Then 2020, so 2019, that draft, 14 team. 2020, can't do anything live. So then I said, we have a lot of international people that are doing fantasy football, like, Murph and Colin Kelly from RotoViz, and I can't remember all their names. But anyway, and Mauricio and guys from Canada, like the Viper guy. I can see his big mustache.
Matt Donnelly.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Matt. So we decided to do a 3rd league, only online, half international, half new U.S. ones that had been created. So we had like Evan Silva and some of them. And so then that was pretty locked in for a few years. And then, like you said, then was like, well, wait a minute. There's IDP, there's Dynasty, now we get the females in. So let's have a Queens Classic, and boom, next thing you know, we've got 7 leagues. And then this year we're doing a fans classic, as Ricky so beautifully brought up. So all you fans out there that are listening, you can represent your favorite expert. Come and draft live at the Pro Football Hall of Fame if you're chosen by them as their favorite fan. But it's okay if you don't get chosen, because we're going to have a qualifier this year called the Fans Classic. It's on the website. Check it all out. And when you go and sign up, you pick your favorite expert. And if you make the final 12, you get to come next year, 2026, and draft live in the Pro Football Hall of Fame with all of us. So check that out. It's only $25. You're going to get a consistency guide. You get a T-shirt, exclusive T-shirt. Only those in the Fans Classic get these. So check that all out. So yeah, thank you guys. And yeah, the Classics has just turned into something bigger and better than I ever thought it would. I'm so happy that almost all the genres, I think, are pretty much represented now. Everybody kind of forgets about the Dynasty because it's Dynasty and they don't draft. They draft right after the rookies. So that's been going well as well. And like you said, the IDP as well. So Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, one last thing that I really want to make sure we touch on. Last year was Ricky's first foray into podcasting regularly, and he had been doing the Start Sit show for a number of years. We have a little internal joke about the name there. You could probably figure it out.
It is hard to say start, sit, show really fast without screwing that up. So,
Yeah.
which I may have done once or twice before.
Yeah.
That's where the beep comes in.
So, Ricky, really quick, just give an overview of the show that you've been doing, what it's about, and where people can find it.
Great. So thank you, Nathan. So first thing I mentioned on X, I almost said Twitter, but on X at RickyRod66. So that's how you can find me there from a following perspective. And now that I'm retired, which I just recently did, you'll probably see me doing even more tweeting here as we move forward, or Xing, whatever appropriate term is.
That's tweeting. I'm not changing.
Okay, so tweeting and not Xing. Okay. So on the YouTube channel for IDP Plus is where you can find all my podcasts, and it's called the IDP Advice Show. And what I'm really trying to do is a combination of multitude of things during the season. I get into snap counts. I use PFF data, and I always give them credit when I do for where players are lining up and what that means for their potential for creating defensive stats, which would help from a fantasy football perspective. I do education on if it's zone or man-to-man and slot versus non-slot cornerbacks and how that helps from IDP. So it helps you, everything I'm doing, it helps you with who to start. It helps with potential waiver pickups, and also helps from an education perspective. So I'm doing that every week during the year. I usually record on Tuesday nights for a broadcast on Wednesday morning so that people can have that information for their Wednesday night waivers and so forth. Perfect. In the off season here, I started off by doing some post-free agency winners and losers by position. So by the true 5 positions for defense, which we're now calling interior defensive line, edge, off-ball linebacker or just linebacker, cornerback, and safety. And so I went through all 5 of those and talked about who were the winners at that position post-free agency and who were the losers. And then I just recording, just got released Saturday. I shared my pre-NFL draft rookie draft board, which has offense and IDP on it, and I have 5 groups of 16, and I went through each of the groups and quarterback, running back, etc., and why I have them in certain positions, setting the stage for what I do post the NFL draft, which will be here's the tiers that I recommend you put the offense and defense players based on their draft capital, the position, what happens to depth charts, et cetera, et cetera. So I have that coming. And then Sean Teague, which you can find at Sean8386, is going to join me. He was a regular on our Start Sit show. Got that correct. And Sean's going to join me, and we're going to do a series of shows about who's going to move into the top 24 at certain positions and who we think is going to fall out. Because repeat rates, whether it be offense or IDPs, are not nearly as high as people think. So we're going to discuss after the draft, after most of free agency is done, who do we think is going to fall out and who's going to move in and why, so that, as the great Bob Harris, the football diehard, says, we don't want to draft last year's best team. We want to draft this year's best team, and we're going to help people with that. So that's a flavor of what we kind of do, but there's a lot of education I like to do. I try and answer all the questions that people put on YouTube after the show, so I encourage people to do that as well. Sorry if that was a little bit long-winded, but thanks for the opportunity to give me to let me share that, because really I want to educate and get more people playing IDP because it's so much fun.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Well, tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, let me.
Any other social you got, and then I'll play the outro from here.
Yeah, I'll do my wrap up. You can find me at Nate Cheat on X, and I just want to give a shout out. Ricky's doing great work as a content creator on the YouTube channel. We've got a lot of other great content creators. Come to idpplus.com, check out the content, go on YouTube, and then follow at IDP_plus on Twitter.
Ricky Rod 66.
Yeah. All right.
So that means my birthday is June 6th if you want to send me a birthday card.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for being a part of the show. As always, thank you for being a part of the expo. Can't wait to see you guys live as always. For Bob Lung, that's Nate, that's Ricky. We're out. Check out the video.
Thanks for watching. Lock in your 2025 football tickets now at thefantasyfootballexpo.com. Hit subscribe and check out one of these excellent at FF Expo videos next.